college football coming back. Well, Bob Bowlsby took to Sirius Radio yesterday for a nearly half hour long interview where he spoke at length about what he thinks about this upcoming season. And what he thinks is we'd be lucky to have one. We would be lucky to perhaps start on time. And he went on to say he is not so much concerned about the start of the college football season. He is concerned about the end of it into the bowl season, where the flu usually comes back with a vengeance every year going into the winter months. As it begins to get warmer and hotter, particularly here in the United States, we hope to see the number of COVID-19 cases drop precipitously. And we hope to perhaps get something like normalcy. Here in the state of Oklahoma, May 1st, our governor had said today we're going to reopen many of our businesses. Folks that can go back to work will go back to work. It has been reluctantly followed by Tulsa City Mayor G.T. Bynum, Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, but we are all cautiously optimistic. And I have said we need to follow our elected officials while holding them accountable as we continue to try to navigate this unprecedented sequence of events, specifically in sports, because sports occupies both this part of our world that is gloriously entertaining and sometimes seen as perhaps supplementary or extracurricular or not even something that you absolutely need, right? But one of the things that I have been really thinking hard about is the essential nature of big sporting events. The NFL draft, I believe for some people, was essential because we now have data to show folks are consuming two types of media. They're consuming news at record levels and comfort viewing at record levels. The NFL draft was comforting. It was something that we all look forward to every year. It's an annual brouhaha, and it's a time for us all to celebrate and really think about something that doesn't have anything to do with us and our current situation. I am pessimistic about the draft, but even I, as many of you know, have been caught up in it because the Dallas Cowboys made me happy with the amount of hope injected into my favorite NFL team, drafting some of my favorite college football players, and on it goes for many of us across those 32 teams across these 50 states. Bowlsby shows up, does what he's been doing, which is be the guy who has to be the adult in the room, and seems like he's throwing cold water on the idea of us even having a college football season as we continue to get data, as schools have said we're going to reopen in the fall. I think some of that is also optimistic. You go on as business as usual for now because you have incoming freshmen that expect to be here, and you have lots of money that you still need to come in to operate your university, let alone your football programs. But there are other ends of that spectrum where Bob Bowlsby is saying, hey, I don't want to have an interrupted season. I don't want to have to figure out what to do if teams are tied or how to calculate the season. I'm going, hey, man, the way that they did it pre-World War II, the way they did it after World War II, the games themselves will matter more than anything else. He also went on to talk about the Cotton Bowl, where OU Texas is held. Does a 100,000 seat stadium become a 25,000 seat stadium? Because we want to really get that social distancing, that physical distancing down. To which many of us would go, hey, why not just give us the home and home? Put OU Texas in Norman and Austin, you cowards. Like, we really would love this. Or put it in Jerry World, right? And there's other traditionals who are like, you can't move OU Texas away from the Cotton Bowl. Be like, many of y'all haven't actually visited the Cotton Bowl in some time. To say nothing of it going on around the Texas State Fair, which has millions of people frequented it throughout the week. And you can catch more than the pandemic out at the Texas State Fair. I'm here to tell you, it was a crush of people last year. It was so much fun. But what makes it so much fun is all of the people that are involved in it, wearing burnt orange, wearing crimson, and Texas fans holding this L. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, we have Iowa, who announced earlier yesterday that they are going to put a moratorium on sports until June 1st. But June 1st, they're going to let the University of Iowa athletics programs get up and running with practice. That includes football. Now, football would also be subject to the same sort of stipulations and, obstacles put in place in the summer to try to limit what the coaches can do, right? But if you want to do your spring practices, it seems as you could do those in June, right? If school's in session and online school is in session, it being one thing or another. Also in Iowa, they're reopening today partially in 77 of their counties. The state also furloughed employees and said those who refuse to turn were going to risk losing their unemployment benefits. That coming from Governor Kim Reynolds. And they have experts that are imploring them not to really let go of these restrictions, particularly in Iowa, because they don't believe that they've seen a peak number of cases. And you can't see a flattening of any curve without a peak number of cases. And that's also been an argument that's used in Oklahoma. But with the University of Iowa, who is a proud football program that was basically given life by Hayden Fry and kept in our national consciousness by Kirk Ferentz, who just put Tristan Wirfs in the draft, who has had any amount of success when we're talking about college football and particularly developing college football players into the NFL and has that kind of national profile. You're not going to get very far with the rest of college football fans by telling them that their team can't get up and play. Now, on the other hand, if you can't protect the student athletes, it's all for nothing, it's all for naught, because nobody's going to put their kids in harm's way, which is why I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the commissioners, along with the athletic directors and the folks running the NCAA, to see if you can come up with some sort of consensus. I submit to you, you cannot. And we're seeing that with professional leagues like the NBA and the NFL. The NFL has not even bothered with saying we're going to create a consensus. It's been Roger Goodell saying, no, this is what we're doing. We're going to play football in September, and we're going to play it all year long. Now, those guys have a union that they get to negotiate with, and they get to put in different parameters for how safety is really defined. But you're seeing with the NBA, Commissioner Silver, who has been really great about trying to build consensus and use a consensus to govern the league and being much more like a PR guy than any other commissioner that we have in major professional sports right now, has the really unenviable, man, I can't say that word, unenviable, there we go, task of trying to lead an NBA that is split. There are players that definitely want to get back to playing, and there are players who are saying, I don't feel comfortable, my family doesn't feel comfortable, and after wanting to start up or quietly restart the NBA by opening facilities today, they have pushed that back to May 8th, and you've seen that across the world, right? The Bundesliga, German soccer, they wanted to start up May 9th. Now they are indefinitely going to stop. The Premier League is going to start talking today about whether or not they can actually open up in June, and they've even play with this idea of CGI fans in the stands because so much of their economy is caught up in professional soccer. The Italian league has said, we're just not having a league. We can't do it. The French league has canceled itself. The same thing with Spain, who is going to start testing its players, but they don't know when La Liga can come back. And that's across the world, right? Now, getting back to the United States, if you are a college football player, a college football administrator, the idea that you might actually have to cocoon yourself off and the SEC just play the SEC and in the SEC and the Big 12 play in the Big 12 and just the Big 12 because traveling in and of itself is going to be a problem is on the table. But it's also going to be pitting athletic directors who are much more, let's call it riskier, and commissioners who are riskier about playing football because they want to see some of this money coming in, a la Mike Gundy, and others who are just going to be like, no, I just refuse to put my people in harm's way. So I think what you're going to see real quick, fast, and in a hurry is a bunch of athletic directors who are going to duke it out in public in a way that is really not going to look good for them or the sport. And if you have to push this thing back to spring and you start with February, right, it's going to be sort of like a sports porn situation, right? Because we'd also benefit from having the best evaluated college football class heading to the NFL of all time. Because as things stand now, if you had the NFL in the fall and you had spring football as college football, all the NFL evaluators get to go to every single game in some way, shape, or form that they feel that they can, right? So you're going to get elite evaluations just the year after your evaluations are probably the worst that they have been in the age of the internet because nobody could travel or go do anything. These are all fascinating stories, and as a person that gets to tell these stories and evaluate this stuff and analyze it, I got to tell you, I'm having a good time, and I'm going to continue to dig through all of this to inform you and also to really be in this position to talk about it, man, because there's also a lot of stupidity that is being spread right now. It ain't going to happen on the RJ Young Show. We're not going to do that. We are going to report what is there, and we are going to talk about and give fair analysis and opinion to what could happen. But that's also the smartest thing that anybody could say about this situation right now. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And the person who pretends to know is the person that you should trust the least.